Day 3 here at the World Junior Ultimate Championships. It's business time. It is Wednesday morning and we are going to bring you an absolute scintillator from women's power pools. It's Italy who had a fantastic game yesterday versus Japan in the under-20 women's division, and this is going to be quite the matchup. We're rolling into the power pool section of the women's division where it is all about finishing in those final 4 spots to make your way to semi-finals. Myself, Hannah Pendlebury, alongside Georgina Morrison, this fine, slightly windy, slightly cloudy Birmingham morning.
Yep, it's certainly a bit blusterier. You can see by the fact that we're donning some coats. We're trying to protect ourselves, but very excited for this matchup. Italy versus Japan in the women's division. Both of these teams now in Power Pool C. The top 4 teams going straight into semi-finals. The bottom 2 going to the 5 to 8 bracket. But they've still got 3 games, including today's one, which will decide where they're going to finish. As we get a brief look at the previous pools. Pool A, the USA taking the top spot, Italy taking second. We saw the matchup between those 2 teams yesterday, and it was an absolute scorcher of a game. Now looking at the other power pools.
Well, it is indeed quite the interesting affair, of course. The USA coming in looking very strong indeed. Many people were talking that game yesterday, Gigi, was the game of the tournament. So if you haven't catched that one, go back and talk about it. But looking at the players to watch for Italy, of course, one of the strong stats leaders in that number 24 shirt, of course, it's none other than Lucrezia Grossi.
Yes, currently with 13 assists and 5 goals to her name. One of the many already very experienced players on this side, having played the under-17s division in 2019 and the under-20s in the 2022-2023 season. So bringing that experience to this Italian side.
Indeed, and she was very impactful last time around, of course. The EYUC, the Italian women, took the silver medal. The last time these 2 teams faced each other, though, in terms of representing nations at under-20s, was back in Waterloo in 2018, where there was quite the commanding performance. The Japanese took an 8-1 lead to enter half and finished it out 15-7. So can the Italians, this time out, do anything about that? Grossi with a roll curve, softly. And just the point and shoot to the far side of the end zone. It's going to have lots of air underneath it, though, and that's a great little bit of run-through block defence taken away by Sakura Shinya, who we know is going to be sitting at the back of that zone, the tallest player on the Japanese roster.
Your perfect positioning from Shinya, reading the disc, ensuring that Fayed had no opportunity to get a second chance on that disc.
Well, it's going to be a battle of the zones. We'll talk a little bit more about those as the game develops. But the Italians like to flex and change them. We're getting our first look at some D-line offense for Japan. Both teams running true D and O lines. That one's going to be taken away nearly, but great. Just sneaking through, and now can Japan do anything with it? Racing away. That's a brilliant run downfield, but Sagane takes it in acreage, now just waiting for everybody else to catch up. The thrower backing it for Yoshida. And just over the line, well, we're starting out with a break here. Fantastic scenes. Shimada with the goal.
A decisive start for Japan. In classic Japanese fashion, wanting to get some give-go options there. But of course, utilising the deep space in clinical style. The celebration for the gimbal camera here on stream. We were watching them warm up as we were chatting to some of the coaches. One of the drills that they were using was a lead pass or deep shot option. So trying to get used to this wind here in Birmingham. This throw from Fayed was a beautiful option. But Shinya with better positioning on the defence.
Well, and that one through the cup of the zone really just about made it. You can understand why this Italian team are throwing those truss balls, but maybe just not quite being aware that this Japanese women's team, they might not have the biggest height in terms of kind of the teams across the division, but they definitely are able to read things fantastically in the wind. They're always so well drilled. But it is a feisty win this morning, Gigi.
It currently says 11 miles an hour. That's just the constant flow of the wind, but the gusts are actually leading up to 25 to 30, if not more, miles per hour. So it's very difficult, particularly in this complex where the wind tends to swirl. So it's not a direct upwind, downwind, crosswind. It's more difficult to predict and read how it's going to flow.
Well, a little bit of backtracking there to make sure the pull gets fielded, but the adjustments there. Also, we have to talk about the slight tilt on this pitch, but we'll do so later as we get another bit of action in the deep space for Sakura Shinya. Marshalling very well this morning. So to pick up Sawayama. One has to think with the 6 options the Japanese have for their zones, they're quite good at playing against them as well. Happy to take the negative yards to start. That one doesn't going to reach, though. Confusion upfield. I'm not sure if that was a throwing error or...
There seems to be, if anything, back-to-back miscommunication. So the receiver not intending the throw to come to them and resulting in the turnover.
Well, the key of playing against a zone is always be ready to make the catch. Every disc is for you. As long as you communicate with your teammates and put a name on it. But the Italians now just resetting with ease. A very tight front wall. A 3-3-1 style.
I'd almost say from this perspective, it does look slightly double-teamy.
It's very close, that is for sure. Pancotti. Of course, the younger of 2 Pancotti sisters. The other one coaching. Sugaya Pancotti, the elder, alongside Sara Baglia, looking after the O and D lines respectively. But solid resetting and patience here. Melinda Amati now just popping through back to Grossi.
This Japanese zone is slowing Italy's offense down. They've got 1 person on the mark and a 3-person cup. And as it moves towards the middle of the pitch, that cup is coming a lot flatter.
Oh, that's a slicing inside throw, though. Very nice finding, Fayed. One of the leaders of this team. So impactful last year on home soil for the Italians in Padova, where they started 7th seed and ended up going all the way to the final. It's a little bit of a touch there for Pancotti. Amati through. Just slowly nibbling away at the distance between the Italians and the end zone. Those over-the-top shots are looking very attractive. Lots of air underneath it, though, and once again, it's a block. Foul's going to be called.
Ballista, without hesitation, calling the foul.
We'll get another look at it. Amati, so much air underneath that throw, always going to be a risky option.
It wasn't very high in the stall count either. It's maybe 4 or 5, so that's not the usual option you'd take at that stall count.
And so she's accepting the foul call, like Italy has called foul, does Japan accept it? Yes, okay, so that's a foul, accept, we're here, okay, so let's get the disc.
So I need the disc.
So 17, go back to where you were. Everybody is, yeah, just wait. Let me leave first, then check it. Okay.
Game advisor Oliver Brown there coming in and just lending some extra assistance. And of course translations as well between these two nations. So an accepted foul. And an easy goal, just running straight forward from Sara Fayed, keeping things nice and simple.
Ballista, unmarked on the force in the end zone, did mean that she had full spec and range in front of her. Not much pressure whatsoever. Very easily finding Fayed.
Yeah, a bit of a bizarre restart there. But hey-ho, these things do happen. And it's all about how it feels on the field to the players, not how it looks on any kind of camera views, but that one will count as a goal. So the Italians hold after getting broken in the first point.
It's not uncommon for defenses to prioritise trying to mark people towards the front of the stack, so not putting as much pressure on the force. We're seeing that happen more often. You're wanting to prevent that initial cut from coming off. But slight miscommunication in the stack there has given Italy their first goal of the game. A clean hold for them.
Well, one apiece, but the Japanese, for their first time coming out on offense, emerging player of the match though so far. We knew that she was going to do some damage. Sakura Shinya really just helping the Japanese out at the back of the stack. So, quickly moving to 1/3 of the distance. Feisty fakes coming out from Sawayama.
Italy setting up with a zone of their own. A very similar style to what Japan brought in the first few points.
Inside breakdown, there's a little look over the shoulder from Shimada. Surely that's not for me, with the pace coming on it. The Italians now a chance to respond. Pinned on the far sideline, but just about escaping is Cascari. Now moving through. This is really solid person defense from the Japanese. They're just going to shoot for hope in the end zone. I'm just about making it. There's going to be a foul call possibly off of that. Just an ankle catching.
Yeah, almost definitely completely unintentional. But both of them clutching ankles.
I think that one is likely to be called as a goal, but we'll see how it gets resolved. We'll take a brief break here and be back with the action very soon.
For the first time in 8 years, the WFDF World Ultimate Championships are here. The best athletes from 23 countries across the globe are headed to Australia to represent their nations in a competition for pride, prestige, and gold. Ultiworld is bringing you exclusive coverage of Worlds from the Gold Coast. See who is truly the best in the world. It all starts August 31st.
Things back on serve here as Japan get broken with a lofty big throw from the Italians on a relatively high stall count. Ariana Ascari getting a little bit of contact, but seems to be walking fine on the sidelines.
Yeah, Ascari, another one of the more experienced players for this Italian side. Having previously gotten gold at EYUC in 2022 for the under-17 division and silver at EYUC in 2023. Currently previously in the tournament, getting 4 assists and 4 goals. So definitely another player to watch out for.
I mean, I tell you what, Gigi, the future of Ultimate for both of these nations, as well as many of the others representing here in Birmingham and the WJUC, because we love a good acronym.
There's so many acronyms.
Absolutely, but yeah, the future is very bright. I'm very glad I get to go and hide in the elder divisions, though of course many of these clubs, in fact the Japanese had some preparation games against the club side Mud, so they said massive thank you to all those players helping them prepare for their journey here in Birmingham. Not the most glamorous of locations to have your world's experiences in your junior years, but exceptionally well run tournament. That one's going to sail and just about be held onto. Fantastic read from Maeda. Big one towards the end zone. 2 Japanese players underneath it. Oh, but fantastic defense over the top. Albani. That one might be called back on a foul. Going over the top and getting a bit too much touch.
Albani soaring through providing a great deal of pressure. 2 Japanese offenders underneath to try and receive the disc.
I jumped before, and then I accidentally landed on. Okay, so I jumped before, and then she fell. Okay. 最初にジャンプして、リスタートに転んだ。
Would it be helpful to have my perspective?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so yes, you jumped before and you got to the disc before, but she had the position, and the way you jumped meant that you were always going to initiate contact with her.
In my opinion, I didn't touch her, so
Okay.
I can touch.
Okay, so that's a foul.
Okay.
Contest. Okay, disc
One
goes back.
Thank you.
That's an interesting
No.
thing to say. She thought she didn't touch her. I think it was. There's definitely contact on the back of that, and you can see a little bit of a vector of that jump towards, almost like a layout style. But it's going to be contested, and we'll return back. And thankfully, no injuries on that one. Oh, all the way across. Beautiful vision on the throw. Nothing to be done about that. Just an easy goal for Sakura Shinya, just hiding on the far side of the field.
Racking up more stats, but providing options for this well-rounded Japanese team so far. They're not afraid to take on those bigger options. And it's good to see that they're really enjoying their time here at the World Junior Ultimate Championships.
Well, the Italians trying to get an advantage here in the game. Not, an unfair, undue advantage. They really are chasing everything down. You can see Albania there supported as well. But nothing to be done. Shinya finding the perfect position. And of course, that is one of the things we know about the Japanese style of ultimate. Their disc skills, GG, are just so good.
Extremely precise, very zippy, so they do have some touch to them, so they're not going to absolutely nail you in the chest, but the precision at which they are able to throw is why they work so well against zones. They can fake and move around the cup, but once they've moved the force out of the way, they're able to find those gaps and then slice the disc through to their offender perfectly.
Well, I think the only difference with some of these under-20s athletes is just by virtue of they're not quite as experienced as their senior counterparts. We have seen some of those zippy discs go astray, sort of in between players, but the Italians now out on offense. Amati still starting to rise, but Grozzi coming through with a nice bit of attacking movement, sitting behind that cup, waiting for either those pops over the top or dynamic movements through. Amati. Great containment from this Japanese zone. Really active mark. Occasionally 2 at a time. Pancotti now. Back to Grossi. Great effort on the shoulder, but opens up the door downfield, but it's an error for Briolini.
A lapse in concentration, trying to go at it with one hand.
And the hand goes up to signal that the downfield receiver wants the disc. That looks like Zayazu. Oh no, it's not. Tsugane. Kahara now on the corner. Oh, and again, just really finding the break side love here are the Japanese women, and that will be a break to put them back on top.
Almost like they wanted to replicate the previous points. Just mirrored entirely. If you were to slice the pitch in half and fold it together, that's the exact pass that you would get yet again. Absolute experts in those throws and finding the space in the end zone. Almost suckering the defense in one direction. Just stuck on that far corner. Multiple Italian defenders swarming around, but the around flick. Celebration for score.
It's a really interesting question, Gigi. So if you're currently coaching the Italians, if you're Sara Baglia on the D-line, do you change the force?
From my perspective, Italy seem to be doing everything correctly, other than the mindset and the fire. Watching them yesterday against the US, they were hungry. it was, well, I don't think that losing was ever a possibility in their minds. They wanted to win that game. But even if they had the possibility of losing that game, they knew that they would have fought for everything tooth and nail. I'm not seeing that same fire in this game. They have more levels that they can rise to, and that's what I want to see in this game against Japan.
Well, I only asked the question because if you change to a backhand force for these Japanese players, their bladey forehand throws are really zippy. They're very hard to stop, whereas maybe a backhand might be a bit softer, catch the breeze and allow their athletic defenders to get under it. But it's going to be all about trying to go against this zone once more. Grossi in the centre. But that one's going to be a spoil upfield. Not sure what was going on there. But a Japanese opportunity again to try and go 3 on the bounce. Gahara across. Maeda now looking for some point and shoot. It's worked out for the Japanese before. Oh, what a fantastic catch block. Lucrezia Grossi, and now just marshalling her team, demanding a deep cut. Sits in that one. Oh, and that's a dicey, slicey one over the top of everybody. And there can't be the adjustment made for the tall-statured Fayed in the backspace.
Almost definitely, if it wasn't as blustery as it is today, those passes would come off. They are absolutely the right options, the right throws. Ever so slight adjustment on the angle of the disc, and that would have been perfect.
We actually have to talk about the difference, because obviously we said that the Italians played against the USA on this showcase field yesterday. The wind direction has changed. It's now very determinedly near side to far side as Albani misses another opportunity for a defensive block. That one's got so much hang time on it, but perfectly poised underneath it. Sagane puts the layout grab, but the ground strip. We're denied a highlight play there by just hitting the deck.
It's so tempting when you get a phenomenal catch like that with the adrenaline pumping through your veins to dish off a pass like that. Again, just soaring past the catcher more than intended.
Bladey one, well caught by Albani. Now just rolling it across with the backhand. Grossi. Pironi. I'm loving the way that these Italian handlers are moving dynamically, but they're not looking frustrated. Looking very calm and comfortable, throwing high pass tallies against this zone. There's the shoot, though, towards the end zone. Briolini underneath it, but again, fantastic read. This time it's Furuhashi. The Japanese eyeing up another go at this break. Kahara, though, is going to send it shooting across to no man's land. Pironi. Love that one, swinging all the way around, but there's no one to support it. The Italians clustered in a vertical stack despite this zone defense being played. The Japanese clearly happy to try and just frustrate the lane, sagging off. And a timeout being called by Giorgia Pancotti.
Not much movement at all from the Italian offense. It looks like tired legs. The game against the USA yesterday was so intense that carrying that through, that fatigue through to today, is almost definitely having an effect on them. I'm really hoping that they can ramp something up here, that they can find that little bit of fuel in their bellies to fire it out. But Japan are so suffocating. That zone has slowed them down effectively, and whenever they get that opportunity to break through, they found it.
Well, it's a pivotal part of the Japanese defensive strategy, I think, is to try and encourage their opponents to throw over the top of them. And it's a really intriguing move because not many teams, when you say, you have not a particularly tall roster, would that be a great strategy? But it is the exceptional reads that are making a big difference for these Japanese defenders. They are getting up in the perfect position, going up high and taking the disc at full stretch, which is a credit to the way they've been coached to kind of be able to do that.
And it's applying on defense as well. We saw that deep shot from Italy where Furuhashi didn't have position initially, managed to get closed in to their mark, and then found the position perfectly, got the read, snagged it out of the air.
Well, it's turning into a bit of a long, grindy point with that timeout. 6 turnovers total. So this, to try and maintain a hold here for the Italians. Can they find the timing to connect with their upfield players? As we see underneath Sofia Albani. Oh, but that's going to be a little bit too flat and easy to poach off onto. Great read by Nihori. Gahara now puts that one up. Oh, that could be beautiful, you know, and it is indeed. Sayori Takano with the goal, and that's another break for the Japanese women.
Yeah, this team has guts. They are brave, but so confident in everything that they're taking on. It's beautiful to watch. And coming into this game, really, we didn't know a great deal about them. We haven't seen a Japanese junior side since 2018. And even if you look at their past results throughout this tournament, they took a 15-4 loss against Japan, a 15-9 loss against Canada, which is a phenomenal result. But then taking some more wins under their belt, 15-5, 15-1 and 15-8 to Singapore, Ireland and New Zealand respectively. But looking at those results, you're not able to tell a great deal about a team. So both sides kind of coming into this game blindly.
Well, that is kind of the nature of the challenge for coaching at this divisional level. You don't necessarily have a huge amount of information on your other sort of opponents. Certainly it was a challenge for us doing our research to try and find out information about this wonderful Japanese team, but they're definitely coming out at the moment just really executing at a very high level. There's been very few unforced errors. I mean, I say that. Obviously, the Japanese women have had a couple of moments where they've been trying to connect with each other through the zone and sort of hitting in between two open players. It's like the thrower can't really choose which one they want to go to. But a lot of these throws do have hang time where there's that little moment in your mind where you think, well, actually, that's possibly, is that gettable? That one that's just gone directly between the two. But the Italians happy to play quite a physical style of game so far. And they are definitely able to threaten every single pass for these Japanese women. It'd be nice to see them play a bit more match defense, I think, just in terms of these Japanese handlers are very happy to throw through the zone. They have great vision upfield. But that was a very pivotal point for this first half. 7 turnovers total. And it has to be said, the efficiency of the Japanese women at the moment, they've not had a possession where they've had to string more than 10 passes together. Their highest total for a goal is 9 passes, which is the opening point. Whereas the zone has pushed the Italians into double digits. In fact, their first hold of the game took 34 passes to complete. So that's kind of the nature for me. Just this Japanese brilliance in getting stuff done quickly. Great adjustments off that looser mark, but eventually they tighten up and it goes through. Great work from Nakasuji, that number 3 in the centre of this cup. Pironi moving across Crozzi again. Just really anchoring here for the Italian women, as we'd expect. Pancotti now going for a little bit of taking the disc for a walk to the park. Vila. Back to Grossi. Again, moving it and swinging it with very high levels of ease when the cup comes closer. Grossi attacking nicely. Goes all the way around. Sometimes the positioning, if anything, a bit too aggressive for the Italians, trying to gain yards with these swing passes. Grossi expressively communicating with her teammates. Oh, I love that little fake and then high release. Pironi now. Again, this Japanese zone trying to tempt them to throw over the top, and that's a brilliant run from behind. Sakura Shinya again knows the role so well of playing the deep, deep. That was a well-taken risk to come out of position. And again, just cascading down that far sideline. Are they going to need to go for the swing resets? Or are they going to be a little bit cheeky? High stall count, and that's a beautiful spear through, but great pressure from Grozzi, just putting too much on for Yoshida to handle, and there's a drop.
You're almost wanting to celebrate and cheer for themselves before even having full possession of the disc. It happens quite frequently.
I think it's just that moment. There's a little bit of wind maybe underneath it. It is a spicy break coming through, so maybe a little bit of an unexpected nature. So a slicer to the far sideline for Pancotti, and a full stretch effort required again for the Italian women.
They're getting pushed further back into their own end zone. Some players are signaling I'm free on the widest side, but that's not an easy throw.
Oh, well, there's the risk not quite paying off. Just making sure with the clap catch layout for Ballista. And huge gains now. Grossi. Lovely inside throw through. Oh, that is going to sail potentially out of bounds. No, just not quite enough hang time for Briolini. But this again, another long point for the Italian O-line.
We have seen some glimmers of beauty playing against this Japanese zone. You can play against a zone in multiple ways. You can go over it, you can go through it, or you can go around it. Going around it, you're having to make multiple passes. You're more likely to cause an error. Going through it, like Italy have started to do now, can gain you some momentum and push you down the pitch further to provide those continuation shots like we saw there. Going over it can provide that as well, but it's a bit riskier in this wind.
Well, this time it's just Japan able to connect with their upfield players, make their way through that initial cut, but not quite what we call the old jailbreak once you get behind that front section. But that's a fantastic layout bid. Giorgia Pancotti sets her sights. So the Japanese quickly sets this 1-3-3, but oh, that's a big old boost to the far sideline, just drops in perfectly, and that's a great little bit of vision all set up by Grossi.
You could almost feel a light bulb moment when Pancotti made that bid. Pancotti was like, nah, I'm done, I'm sick of this. Takes on that bid. And the flow and momentum that Italy then started to generate, almost wanting to replicate the Japanese style of playing. Like, if you can't beat them, join them. Use that style to your advantage. Take confidence in your shots, because you know that you're able to do it. That phenomenal bid, almost baiting it, getting her body on the line and in the way, and thankfully tipped enough to prevent a second chance. And this forehand sat into the lap of Ballista.
Yeah, that was all about the hockey assist, that goal. Completely. I mean, throwing well over the top of the zone, beautiful execution. I mean, leaving herself because of the path of the disc, the kind of roll curving forehand. It's not the smallest window to throw into. You do have a little bit of space there. And, I mean, it's a rare moment. I think you've got to take those opportunities. Ronawada there in the zone for the Japanese just stood, wasn't attacking the disc actively. If she'd have been running in more aggressively, then there's no way Pancotti has an ability to make that inside layout bid. But she saw the flat-footed, saw the offensive player on the heels, and got the disc back. And that's a huge point again for the Italians, because if that had been another break, we would have seen these Japanese women racing away like they did back in 2018. But a hammer spoiled with defensive pressure. Dolci, sweeter than sweet. Albani now with a 5-panel in there. This time not perfect. Deep defense from the Japanese, and just a little sneaky one over the goal line. The moves between Claire Bini and Marta Rota.
Yeah, Rota almost, I wouldn't say saviour of that point, but you could see the disc was soaring over across the sideline. With 2 receivers there was going to be a miscommunication at some point, but something was said between the 2 players to prevent that from happening. This shot from Albini, flying over the top into Rota's hands.
Well, we are seeing a couple more of those longer passes coming out for the Italians now. I think they've figured out that in these conditions here on the pitch, putting a little boost on it, trying to use their height advantage, but it has to be well put. You can't leave too much hang time on it, because that seems to be when the Japanese are able to set themselves in perfect position to get the blocks. But that will level us off in terms of the scoreline, but the Japanese able to overcome the advantage that the Italians started with because they got that break to start the game. So the Japanese will start the second half on offense. So all the work to do for this Italian D-line, and that's going to sail out of bounds for the pole of Albani. And to finish off the point we started making earlier, the other thing you might not realise from our wonderful camera views is the fact that actually this pitch tilts. It's actually slightly uphill when you're going right to left, playing defence or offence. So currently the Japanese uphill ever so slightly. And of course, just to try and get the drainage. Really great read in the wind for Shimada. And this Italian zone giving plenty of room for active movement from the handlers to drive forward.
They almost seem to deliberately be poaching off, sagging away from the handlers to encourage those pop passes and bait them in.
It makes sense to me because a lot of the time in the early stages of this game, the Japanese were really throwing through the very tight cup. They were very comfortable with those small windows. So this time, trying to be a bit more like a door to slam shut if the players are too far away. It just puts that little bit of challenge, sagging into the spaces rather than putting huge amounts of pressure on the individual with the disc. But they pop in and throw all the way across. Negative yards there, but something a little bit different to try and move this defense around. There's a reset on the left shoulder. That one will be redeemed. Eren Zayazu just hitting the deck to make sure. Shimada now moving it across. And this is the sort of flow that's been working. Oh no, it doesn't, but there's a bobble! And just making sure, Albani. You can't go for a touch block in these conditions. The wind will help it sit.
Grandi soared up to tip it off to Albani. Thankfully not tipped off into the hands of a Japanese offender.
Well, only if you're an Italian fan, and I'm sure they're all watching on this live stream today. Certainly, when we were watching back that one from 2018, there were so many familiar names in the live chat. So, an inside shot, beautifully weighted. Are they going to go for the isolation? They are, but that's just a miscue on the throw. Slips out of the hand in a strange way for Rota. And she'll want that one back.
I don't think she anticipated that one at all. But finding Rota in the first place, that throw from Beanie. Whoa, oh my goodness, that was incredible. Japan now signalling for a timeout of their own.
Well, not surprising there. I think our camera folks, massive thanks to them working it out here in the conditions, not in the cushy booth like us, but they actually had a great shot there of some of the coaches, so maybe that was what the call was. But we're going to get a little look, and of course that game we talked about yesterday, one of the games of the tournament so far. Gigi, talk us through it, because you called it, USA versus Italy.
It was certainly a phenomenal matchup. The USA wanting to come out firing and to show that they can be a dominant force to reckon with, but Italy answered back in equal force, if anything. It was level for most of the game until it got to 10-10, and that's where the US then found another gear, which I did not think was possible, and rose above it to win the game 15-10. There was a Callahan for the US towards the end of the game, bringing it to 13-10. But it's a game full of highlights from both sides.
Indeed. Well, great expressions there. You could really see how much of the vibes the Italian women were enjoying in that game. Of course, they've got their coaches out on the field. And the Japanese coaches as well. Tomoe Iwata, the assistant coach. And just so lovely to have, of course, these youth athletes visiting England for the first time from all the way from the islands of Japan. And the head coach, Emily Mitsui, as well. Bringing this slightly smaller roster for the journey all the way to here in Birmingham. Oh, a miss. Cue on the throw to Sawayama. And a goal line possession for the Italians. This to put 3 on the board. Responding to Japan's 3 of their own. And it's a little squeeze through to none other than Giulia Cicchetti.
Squeeze through is the perfect way to describe that. Japan were not wanting to give that away easily. It's been great to see how their O-line defense has been working to try to prevent Italy from getting another break. That is Italy's 3rd break now throughout this entire game so far. And it's not been easy whatsoever.
Well, it seems like both of these teams are kind of doing what we expect from juniors programs, which is having moments of really vibing, really getting on with each other. The flow's fantastic. The catches are sort of, perfect. The positioning great. I mean, we've seen lots of great redemptions of slightly spicy discs for both sides. Another look at that. Great bit of determination. Love that body control from Sofia Albani to avoid contact there. And great spirit as well. Certainly from the attitude and the positive, fair-mindedness and self-control. Well, a positive attitude and self-control and fair-mindedness. Those 2 categories. Yeah. I think
I'd also say communication. There's been good chat between both sides. And whenever there's been the requirement for a translator to get involved, it's been respected. Everyone's been patient.
Well, the Japanese women, unsurprisingly, very high in the spirit rankings overall. Currently second only to the Australian women. And of course, all the breakdowns, all of the results are available online, results.wfdef.sport/WJUC. Or you can just ask your favourite local search engine. So the Japanese facing the Italian zone once more. It's worked out well for them for the past 2. Can they start to figure this out after the timeout?
This does look like a slight variant of a zone, almost an upside-down arrowhead.
Oh, I love that inside throw, so beautiful. And that one, well, we talked about the Italians squeezing it through. That one just about made it between the disturbances of the air of the layout bid, but Minaho Shimada reeling it in.
Their ability to find the gaps is impressive. They're using barely any fakes, if anything, so just maybe 1, 2, as we saw there, just very quick up-down forehand fake. Decisive around backhand shot between Italian defenders. I think, thankfully for both sides, that was a relatively quick possession.
We have started to get some more long drawn-out points, although the rhythm is speeding up now as we approach, well, I say approach half-time. Of course, half will be at 8. First team to reach that tally. But very different experience to the teams in 2018, of course. We don't have any of the youngsters from those squads that went to Waterloo back in Canada.
Imagine if we did.
Well, there are some proper youngsters here. I think we have some 13-year-olds in this under-20s division. Not in either of these teams, but it's a real testament because, of course, the under-17s division does exist. Joint Juniors back in 2022 after the cancellation of the pandemic cycle for the under-20s division. Sort of brought those two youth age groups together. Pancotti through to Fayed. Moving all that one across. Nice read for Pironi. Just needed that little bit of adjustment. There's lots of air underneath it. Pancotti going up with one. Using maximum verticality with the diagonal. Although not always the safest, but that one, too much juice on it from the paws of Giulia Villa. And an opportunity for the Japanese to get another break. We haven't traded at any point. It's all been about runs of breaks and flow, finding a little bit of groove here. Still count rising up all the way, and that one's just going to be a frustrated throw, trying to hit for Yukahara. And Grossi, huge fakes. Moving it all the way across. Can they remove those little overshoots? Villa. Pironi now. The Japanese were just a front three now. Again, these high releases getting a little bit exciting. Ascari, lovely to see her back on the field after taking that collision earlier on for the goal. Fayed now. Things just matriculating across, trying to find the right angles. Love that movement from Grossi, really pushing through, and that's going to be a score on the front cone. Well, or thereabouts. Nice little diagonal move from Ariana Ascari, and that will be another goal on the tally for the number 19.
Centimetres away from the defensive outstretched hands. A beautiful shot around into the end zone. Italy now 6-5 up. And Italy seems to be more in sync during that point, taking on riskier options, more confident options, but also considering them before taking them on. They're waiting an extra split second just to ensure it's going to be the right throw, the right angle, ensuring that there isn't a strong defensive presence in the way.
Well, Ascari, like her teammates, going for gold this time out at the World Under-20s level. Dual medalist though, got an Under-17s gold back in 2022, a silver 2023, one of the returners for this squad. And for the Italians, sort of their retention, obviously the Japanese youth programs and scenes, they have kind of local domestic competition and they go to the Asian Championships. But we don't get to see too much of them.
Opting for a roller pull.
Majority of this Japanese roster are university students, so the elder side of the age bracket, whereas the Italians have more of those younger players. So they're really enjoying the learning experience, but that's going to be a dual D in the centre field. Fantastic grind there for Pironi. Now pops it back, big opportunity here. And that's a fantastic D, that arm just slicing through. Go gadget for Maeda. A little collision in the centre field, just in front of the disc. But all fine. So Shida bringing us back in. Underneath. Sasaki Maeda, who got that wonderful swiping block, whistle clean. Yoshida. Oh, that one's just hitting the ankles of Shimada. So a missed moment there. The Italian D-line. Again, just almost freeze frame hang time on some of these higher discs. Cotolino. Stall count really starting to add the pressure. Just about pops it through to Bini, who holds her line very well. Albani. Cozzolino. It's going between the two, but Bini now. Going up the sideline, it was a tempting shot, and it's going to be just about blocked. The door closed at the last moment for Sawayama.
Yeah, beautiful read from Sawayama. Did have the 99 of Lisa Rubino for the second attempt, just off the fingertips of Albani.
Well, Albani is a big target to throw to, so when she's going up line, she almost means business. That could have been a Callahan for Cicchetti. But it's going to be assist instead, finding on the break side Lisa Rubino. And that will be another break for the Italians in this game. My goodness, it's really difficult to just keep up with who's on top at the moment.
From start to finish of this point, Italy had the goal, or a goal in mind. They started off with a roller pull, intentionally getting Japan stuck onto the sideline, going into match defense, hoping that a play like this, a good smackdown from Pironi, would give Italy a strong position. And they did have the opportunity. It was incredibly well defended by Sawayama. But then coming back through was Cicchetti, the fast pickup, and giving Italy another point on the board. Their fourth break of the game.
I love how Cicchetti goes for that with the actual open palm. She really is looking to make a catch block, which on that angle for that, there are moments where yes, going for a catch block is not the one. If you've got momentum, kind of the right vectors. If you want more information on that, I suggest you go online. There are many wonderful coaching resources that have discussed this in detail. But that one, I love that way that you're training your players, especially when you're matching with a handler, going for a catch block, really just making sure there's no wind that's going to get underneath it. And, you know, scoring a Callahan's always pretty cool. Feels nice. Less nice for the person that's thrown it.
Yeah, I've thrown many Callahans. I've never scored one myself.
Are you an O-line player though, Gigi?
Yes and no.
Just commit to the bit. Just an O-line player, man.
I play where I'm told to play.
So Japan looking to try and keep this first half alive. 7-5 the current scoreline. Those Italian women really starting to find the way to move their way through the gears after the strong start for the Japanese. Nice one. Just slowly gaining yards. That's a beautiful lead pass into the path of Shimada, who's going to immediately go for goal, but that's a really great pick-off. Albani. Need to find more positive words. But the run-through blocks of the Italians starting to rise to the ascendance.
And you mentioned earlier on that you wanted to see more match defense at some point, and Italy are finding that in their favor against Japan so far.
Well, we're talking about the brilliance of the Italian defense now. The Japanese women doing some of their own, running through, and that one's just going to hit the deck and the dust. Saki Maeda with a great effort. But the Japanese just struggling to find their flow now. The adjustments from the Italian defensive mind for Badlier there with the clipboard paying some dividends. Pironi shoots up line to Albani. He doesn't start from the handle position. Oh, that's a really lovely bit of defense though, just sneaking through Shimada. There is a big heavy contact with Bini. Did she have position? Well, we'll let the players in the field assess Bini, and we will be back in action for the continuation of this first half. Italy leading 7-5 over Japan. So a collision on the field. Shimada coming in from this near side to try and deny. Was a question of whether the positioning was clean, if it was there ahead of time. A long discussion here, so we'll get another look at it.
Beanie had a strong position, did have the disc almost within grasp, but Shimada also hungry for the disc. Thankfully, both players standing seem to be all right.
Yeah, Beanie, I think, if anything, just perhaps a little bit of a shock there to get all smiles and waves from the players watching our replays. Cicchetti there. I think that one's probably going to go back to the thrower, perhaps. But I have to say that looked, from my view, Shimada got there cleanly enough for it not to be a dangerous play, certainly. But the Italians having a lovely time. I think it's just that maybe there's a little bit of surprise that she's there. There didn't look to be a huge amount of contact. Maybe the arms of Beanie, but it does make that landing a little bit awkward. And of course, Ollie Brown on the far sideline. So it goes back, contested foul. I think that is a very fair outcome indeed. But the Japanese, indeed, as you say, Gigi, hungry for blocks to try and keep this first half alive. Because an 8-5 lead is a very strange position. We certainly saw that in the women's division yesterday, with the Canadians over the French. But this one's been about swings of momentum, and Beanie makes a huge effort, but comes up a little bit short.
Yeah, the Italian horizontal stack had set up quite deep after the initial turn, and it looked as if having Albani on disc and trying to get Beanie grinding under was some sort of set play.
Well, confusion somewhere in the defence there. There was a very long time before, I think that's Ono that got it, but that's a hand block from Gelfi. Pironi, a little bit of a reach required for Albani. It's become one of these Italian talismans we talk about, getting real Elena Bengi vibes from her. Double coverage just makes the redemption. Grandi. Grandi through to Beanie. Oh, a spicy one up line, and that's going to bounce out of the hands like she falcon punches it out of the air. Valentina Santaelena, nothing she can really do about that.
A laser towards the back corner of the end zone. Not sure whether Beanie actually intended for it to be as powerful of a throw as that.
Yeah, just trying to end this point is becoming another long drawn out one. It's been a while since we've had this number of turnovers. 6 total, 3 apiece. This Japanese O-line possessions. Nice smooth moves. Shinya, we've not talked about her for a little while, normally receiving these deep bombs for Japan. And there's a big cluster underneath that one. Albani just getting that slight advantage in timing due to the height. But a great effort from Saki Maeda. You can't teach tall, as they say. Though you can find ways to nullify that advantage. Grandi has Pironi. A little fake towards the line. And Albani again, not starting from the hand position. But that's going to be just too far again. You have to say, Claire Beanie cannot be... said she's not making enough effort in this game.
Certainly not. Body flying around, really wanting to save the Italian possession at every opportunity.
And an important factor we haven't talked about, the wind condition changes now. This one is shooting directly upwind. And it's going to just be taken away. Too much underside of the disc shown, and nothing Sugano can do to reel it in. But that one's going to also be taken away by the wind. A stumble doesn't allow the initial easy goal. I love the way these Japanese handlers are moving through, but always looking at their player with the disc, always ready. And that one just about makes it through, but doesn't make the catch. I think Beanie maybe got a little touch on it, and Grozzi says, that's not Grozzi, that's Albani says, that's enough of this. Let's go have a chat with our coaches, and timeout called by the Italians.
I do not blame them for wanting to make the timeout call. A fair few turnovers, but defensive pressure from both sides has just been suffocating. We saw there in the most recent possession a lot of pressure from Bini, as we see the tip off from Pironi, immediate pickup again, and on the force again. That's fantastic work from Cicchetti.
Well, it's what we were calling for earlier, more match defense being played by the Italians, although that seems to be a timeout call where they didn't have any left, so we're back straight away in play. Grandi through to Gelfi, who's had a relatively quiet game but some very impactful in this late stage of the first half. Pironi. Oh, that looked threatening. Great coverage from Sugane, and now there's going to be contact on that one. A foul called by Albani.
Maybe trying to say that there was contact on the back shoulder from Saki Maeda.
Yeah, she's certainly massaging that left side of the torso. Getting another look at it here.
Call from Italy, foul. Accept. Okay, great. Where's the disc? Okay, yeah, let's get started. Let's get back to playing.
Nice quick resolution there.
Yeah, Saki Maeda just waiting now for the GAs and our glam cam gimbal to leave the field. So that one will go back. Oh no, there we go. Not coming back. I'm going to say it was after that throw went. So, Bini on the far sideline. Back in action. The Japanese very flat on these forces, not really putting too much pressure. Happy to just let the Italians reset laterally.
I think they've caught on to the fact that Italy does want to use that deep space, and so providing that flat force slows them down significantly.
Yeah, Grandi taking the walk with the disc a little bit there, but not a meaningful infraction. High one. And again, that fire that you talked about, Gigi, starting to really burn in this Italian women's side now. They are attacking the disc ruthlessly, but that's going to be a fantastic bit of defense. Shimada with the just superior read on that lofty throw. And another big shot coming out of the hands of the 39 shirt of Sakura Shinya.
Sugane bidding just in case. Can never be too sure that the disc is far away.
Well, the wind had dropped in that moment.
It possibly dropped too much, causing the backhand to sink into grass.
Well, this is really an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. Do you know what the turnover tally is now?
I have no idea.
13. In this 1 point alone. 13 turnovers.
Oof.
7 for Japan and, of course, 6 for Italy. This is a defensive point for them to try and break their way out of first half. Gelfi, I don't think there was any collision just coming off the field, but an injury call. So some fresh legs. Oh, of course, they're bringing in Grozzi. Huge firepower. I don't think the Japanese have made a substitution. They're sticking with their original 7 for offense. Bini across to Grozzi. You can see, Grozzi has been playing with this demanding movement and communication. So expressive, really talks to her team actively.
And having Grossi in the backfield allows for Albani and Bini to step back into the downfield space.
Brilliant work there from Eren Zayazu. Turning around, doesn't need to be in front, close to the defender, just putting the hand in the right position and avoiding any contact. Very tight vertical stack near to the disc, and another timeout called during this marathon point. 14 turnovers total, and this time it's the Japanese who'll go talk to the coaches. So we will also take a brief moment of repose here. We'll come back though and see what we can see as this first half continues to claw on. Italy 7 and Japan 5. Birmingham, UK, hosting the World Junior Ultimate Championships 2024. Women's division power pool play in front of us, and they say the number 13 is unlucky for some, and certainly a marathon point in front of us right now. The 13th of this game, 14 total turnovers, and Japan women in this under-20s division trying to fight through here to keep the first half alive. It's a big swirling backhand all the way across, and fantastic execution. Yuna Tagane finding Shimada in the end zone. There's going to be a call on it, perhaps a travel.
It looks like a pick. Albani is signalling for a pick call further backfield.
It's a never-ending story at this point.
It's a great film.
Well, let's get another look at that fabulous throw.
Tsugane on top form with the backhand there. Shimada providing the perfect deep cut. Again, possibly something that they had discussed previously during the timeouts.
I'm not sure who exactly. So it was a pick that was called whilst Tsugane had possession. So we'll get another look at her throwing ability. I'm sure the next one will be just as delicious. But call back. There is the separation downfield initially, but this time chooses to holster. Goes for the reset through, and a stall out now called.
The force of Santa Elena providing an immense level of pressure. Initially coming flat on the force to prevent that initial backhand shot.
Well, it's a difficult one because, of course, the pick call that brings back the disc really interrupts flow.
Not take, I said the 10, and you were, I think, when I said 10, you still had the disc in your hand.
Okay, in which case it's a contested stall out, so the disc will come back to you. Okay, and you come in on maximum stalling 8. Okay?
Okay, you contest or uncontested?
Do you need any more help? Translation?
正解でってこれ認めるときは10かもしれないけどでもないんで投げたつもり10を言って
sure that when this count was
I know I think it was 10 okay so you contest the report or you or it is uncontested するか
Okay. Okay, so it's contested stall.
A little bit of confusion there. I think the Japanese players have accepted the stall out call.
They have indeed, so that is a turnover. Obviously with half the field to work down.
I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that one. However, I'm still going to just cling on to the fact that Tsugane had that beautiful throw, and now we're going to get one out of Grozzi that's almost perfectly weighted, but just a touch too far from static for Sofia Albani.
Grossi wasting no time whatsoever. Did have Albani in a beautiful position, but even this point of the pitch, being this far down, close to their end zone, is much better than being halfway across it.
Well, self-refereed sport, and it's going to be the Japanese with a full stretch to go. But still, that throw from Grossi, almost on the money. Very enjoyable and entertaining to watch. That one scooping out for Tsugane. A little bit of a switch downfield. Love that intelligence, and that's going to be too far for Shimada to collect. So a much shorter field now for the Italians. Peroni around. Albani now. Easy pop for Grossi. 17 total turnovers at this point. The momentum to try and come out into the second half. Albani now. Pops it back over that shoulder, goes up line again. This time just has to fall over the line to make sure because finishing off this point, I'm sure, is highly in the priorities, and it's a dish over the top into the hands of Lucrezia Grossi, and that will end the first half, folks. It took a very long time, and I'm sure the Japanese O-line will be very, very glad to have the half-time break to rest.
That was an absolute mountain to climb. As much as I'm sure Japan are not happy that Italy managed to punch a score in to take the half, I'm sure they're pleased to be able to take a breath, have a break, reset during this half-time, and Grossi being a phenomenal bonus onto this D-line. Albani having to go to ground to ensure that they get the saved possession there, back over the top to Grossi.
Well, adding that additional firepower from the O-line when the D-line really needed to just finish this one off. The total turnovers, of course, now much heavier than it was earlier on our stats board. 17 total just in that final point. The break chances, though, for the Italians are much, much higher. They really are pressuring the Japanese women very solidly, which is not to be a surprise here. They started out very different seeds and, of course, have had very different campaigns so far into this power pool stage. So we will have a sideline interview very soon with one of our wonderful Italian coaches who I'm sure is really enjoying watching her sister playing in front of us. So of course, it's been a very interesting game so far. So thank you so much for joining us, Agaya Pancotti. How are you feeling right now after that very, very long point?
Yeah, I'm very happy to bring this half win because we had a very difficult begin for this match, but we are focused and we try to keep the intensity high, also with a lot of mistake because of the wind, but we are trying to doing better our offense flow.
Beautiful. And it's not been easy whatsoever throughout this game. Japan have been applying a lot of pressure on defense. What have you been saying to your team to be able to keep their heads in the game and keep them motivated?
Yeah, the point is to be super focused to maintain the high intensity in the offense, because yes, they are tired, but Japan also are tired, so keep in mind that if you want to win, you have always to add some more tips in your offense flow.
Well, we also have to say happy birthday for yesterday, Guy.
Thank
we
you.
heard that you found some acceptable quality pizza in Birmingham.
Yeah.
But in terms of giving you further gifts today, as the person in charge of the offense, it seems like you've given the mandate for your players to throw longer discs. How do you expect in a second half? What would you like to help connect those shorter passes? Because at the moment, sometimes your handlers are struggling, especially against the zone, to connect downfield. So what would you like to see?
I would like to see more long throw, because I know that our handler have it, so try to use the space for the hack better, but I want also to continue with the flow that became from the under space.
And what would you think the key to that would be, to get that flow under?
To keep the disc alive, move always the disc to
change the angles?
Yes, but let's continue to run the defense.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for your time, Gaia Pancotti.
Thank you.
Good luck for the second half, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Well, words of wisdom there from the O-line coach of Italy women, who have the lead in this game. But what a first half it's been. 8-5 Italy over Japan.
For the first time in 8 years, the WFDF World Ultimate Championships are here. The best athletes from 23 countries across the globe are headed to Australia to represent their nations in a competition for pride, prestige, and gold. Ultiworld is bringing you exclusive coverage of Worlds from the Gold Coast. See who is truly the best in the world. It all starts August 31st.
Well, live in action, Italy at the moment have the advantage over the top. So we're joined by head coach Emily Mitsui. Lovely to have you with us. What changes do you want to see on offense for your team now that the Italians are playing a little bit more match?
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm Japanese head coach. We are so happy to play, and we had a good opportunity, and we hope to play good, and we want to good play and win. Yeah.
Do you have any messages for your fans watching back home, Emily?
Isn't it okay in Japanese?
Yes, please.
Okay. 日本で応援してくれる方々ありがとうございます。そうですね。全力を尽くしていいプレーを、ぜひ皆様にお届けできたらいいなと思います。そして、一つでも多く勝って、彼女たちが思いっきりプレーできるような環境を作ってあげたいなと思ってます。応援お願いします。Thank you.
Thank you. Have good luck for the second half, Emily.
Thank you very much.
Well, I have to say my Japanese is nowhere near good enough to know what the message was to the fans back home, but I'm sure they will appreciate it.
I heard arigato. I think a lot of people know it just means thank you.
Hi. No, most of my Japanese language understanding comes from watching Old Enough. So it's all about the Japanese first chore. So can they find the independence within themselves, the youth players, to get the job done here? They say with the first chore ritual, if you don't know what that is, I recommend you look it up. It's super, super interesting part of Japanese culture. But young children go out and do their first independent chore under the watchful guise of the rest of their community. They really are a wonderful culture over in Japan. But they say that the first chores are always more successful when they are for family members or for other people. and this real team culture for these Japanese women, despite facing up against a very well-tooled Italian squad. Oh, that is such a beauty of a throw down this near sideline. Going to overshoot it, though, towards the swing side. A missed opportunity there, but a really just that first throw beforehand, hitting Jayazu, was a real beauty.
Every time I think that the Japanese throwers can't impress me more, they find another one in their toolbox somewhere and unleash it. Unfortunately, that forehand was slightly too flat. Could have had some more outside in edge to flow perfectly into the end zone. But Italy in a ridiculously tough position. That front corner of the end zone, multiple Japanese defenders positioned around. The stall count now rising.
Well, that one is just going to be bladed into the dust. Well, I say dust, to be fair. There's a little bit of sort of dry grass on the field. Very plush underfoot, nice and bouncy after yesterday morning's rain. Just starting to look a little bit green, sorry, less green, more yellow, by virtue of the hot-footed athletes cleating their way through. So Japan now, goal line possession. Oh, that one nearly spilled out of the lap of Maeda. Shimada now eyeing up the Italians, sticking with his own set all the way into the end zone, trying to just compress and confuse the space. Plenty of room to throw it around the back, though. Just take that one negative pass and move it across quickly.
But this Italian zone is designed to stop flow as much as possible.
Well, it's just very clustered in the front space. We know that the Japanese were very, very handy with their break side throws towards the beginning. Good movement in the deeper space of the end zone. That one squeaked through to Shimada. Now all the way across. Strong fake to try and flush to the cup. Oh, that cheeky high shoulder fake. That one's just about clung onto. Honestly, she must have glue on those gloves. Sawayama holding on for dear life. That one more feathery and just squeezing between the two defenders. Well, the Japanese women hold on to the point to start the second half. They trail by 2 breaks, but that is a good start to their campaign for the latter stage of this game. Just under 20 minutes remaining.
Feathery, a perfect descriptor for those final few passes. It was gently popped into the front of the end zone. A few Italian defenders were there, applying some pressure. But Italy, again, have a little bit to answer to as Japan is starting to ramp up that pressure. We see that phenomenal catch from Sawayama again. Momentum catching her off guard, but able to stand up and continue on. Japan now only 2 points separating them. Fewer turnovers in that point.
Well, I think it would have been difficult to get over the previous point total. That was a real marathon that did go in favour of the Italians, but the pause at half seems to have allowed the Japanese to steady the ship. If they can bring back the form they found in the early stages of this game, Gigi, I think we could probably see that 8-5 advantage close up quite quickly.
It certainly could.
But as Poncotti said, she's given licence to her team to throw more of these deeper shots. And it's going to be Sakura Shinya with the pull for Japan, trying to get us back underway for the Japanese campaign. Pancotti there. 4 handlers back for the Italians, trying to use swiftest movement and indeed keep that disc flowing. All moving forwards. That was going to just sail a little bit too high, though. Pops over the head of Giulia Villa. But can the Japanese make good of this opportunity to draw closer to their Italian opponents? Just grinding through, disc space called on the mark. And negative yards It's what the Japanese have to accept. Big break to the far sideline, and again the look over the shoulder. Mihori thinking that must be for somebody else behind me. But the bid of Giorgia Pancotti making that throw very difficult indeed.
And because the Japanese throws are so precise and zippy, it is causing them to fly further away from the receiver than intended at times, especially when it doesn't have that roll curve that they might have wanted in these windy conditions.
Well, the way that they execute some of those really flat forehands is a testament to the quality of the releases, because it is indeed quite a blustery day here in Birmingham. Not the most windy of the sports complexes here in Nottingham. Good recatch on the far sideline. But great defence again. The Japanese starting to get back into these air battles. Lovely read from Ikagagi. Backhand, sailing, soaring. But a little bit of collision there as Pancotti made the bid. She'll come off for an injury. Slightly awkward, but does leave the field under her own steam.
There was some contact between Shinya and Ballista on the throw. Seems to be uncontested.
Well, if you're not familiar with Frisbee jargon, if you're watching this, of course, this is our free game today. Uncontested is just another way of, a weird Frisbee way of saying accepted. We're just so used to saying it, Gigi. And then you talk to non-Frisbee players and they're like, what does uncontested mean?
It means that it's not contested.
Or perhaps if it was contested before.
Okay, right. We've got a. You've called foul. You've contested it.
Yeah.
What's the stall?
That's 5.
Okay, so we've got a stall.
No.
Are there any other calls?
No, not a goal, but it's turnover. We did.
Okay.
Nobody stopped. Nobody heard the call. And
No, ma è fallo perché dice che io le ho colpito la mano, non è
Ho
quello.
capito, ma lei è caduto, rega.
Ma le ho colpito la mano. Dice.
So that.
Ma chiediamo la line.
Yeah, she's saying that it's
Japan.
turnover.
Japan, you called the foul.
Yeah.
The thrower called the foul. The defender contests it. Are we positioned to restart?
Io conto da 5.
Okay, let us get off the field. Thank you.
Some good rules clarification from the game advisors there. It's Oliver Brown and Kat Gale. They're able to provide perspective and clarification of the rules, but their opinion is not final.
Well, that one's going to soar all the way through and spoiled high. And a turnover is signalled by others, but a retracted foul call in the end zone.
Best to call it and think about it, have some sort of semblance of perspective, than to not call it and regret it later on.
Grossi, we know she's got the power to shoot. Nice active mark. And not really that many connections upfield. You can see they've put Albani in that deeper space, just centrally in the zone spacing. Grossi, that's got a lot of loft on it. Briolini reads well. Now looking to just go that give-go action all the way into the end zone. Pots back to Grossi. So impactful for this Italian women's side. Amati barely holds on to it for a moment before it goes back to Grossi, of course.
Japan still sticking with this 3-person mark towards the front.
Well, it is making the Italians hesitate. It's not exactly rapid-fire offense. It's high pass tallies. They've gone well into the double digits repeatedly, and there have been, I think, about 3 channels of offense for the Japanese where they've had to go into double digits. Obviously, sometimes it's because there's a turnover, but when they've been putting those goals in, it's been very fast fashion. Oh, what a little sneak through at the last moment. There's going to be a foul call from Laura Briolini.
I'm not sure that Takano actually realised that there was the foul call, still bidding to ensure that something had happened.
Well, very sure that she'd got that one cleanly, so you can't fault her for playing on.
I think there is some discussion between the foul call. Some of the Italian players are signalling to retract, but it has affected the play regardless.
Indeed, a foul is stoppage after all.
So Italy. Yeah. You call the foul, and then yeah. Okay. Yeah.
She wants to
Yes. Yep. So it's a foul. You're retracting. That's fine. Yeah. No. Yeah. So retracted. There's no foul. Well, it's retracted. So the disc will stay down there because there's as if nothing happened. Yeah. Yeah. So it goes down there. It's a turnover.
So it would have come back if that had maintained possession for the Japanese, but they're attracting the foul call by virtue of the turnover on the very free Saori Takano.
The players just getting themselves back into position where they were when the foul was called. Defense now checking it in.
So just running through to apply the cup is Wada. And the grind continues here in this women's power pool game.
There's not many Italian offenders actually coming closer towards the handlers. They're giving each other too much space, if anything.
Well, I love that grab from Fayed, though. Almost caught it between just 2 digits alone. Vila, a little bit low, but Grossi, who, considering how many times she's touched the disc, Lucrezia Grossi has only had 4 turnovers in this game. Some of those, of course, in that absolute marathon point to finish the first half. Proper tussle between these two teams. That one goes all the way across. No call, whistle, clean D from Ikagaki. Has a reset available. Love that patience. Kahara just keeping it simple and waiting for her teammate to realise that one's going to have to be tracked down, but just not enough gas in the tank.
Again, the right option was taken. The cut was there. They were free on the open under. The wrong
injury
angle of
call.
release. That's Albani coming off.
Well, that is a big loss for the Italians if she can't make her way back onto the pitch. Really use that height so effectively.
She has been absolutely grinding for this Italian D-line.
But this, of course, is a little bit of inspiration for the Japanese women, because this is their D-line coming out. And whereas at the end of the first half, the Italians kept the Japanese out all day long, this time able to put the Italian O-line under pressure. Grozzi, that one's going to just hit the deck. And a third of the field for this Japanese D-line. Can they do anything with it and bring themselves within one of their opponents? This, of course, still will be trailing. Oh, that's a really nice little bit of shoot and go, but it's well handled at the back of the stack. Lisa Rubino.
As effective as Japan's quick catch and throw, especially with the zippy passes options are, it often doesn't give them the opportunity to be able to stop and think. So where the defender Rubino was in the way there, and Italy now off to the races, having made their way down through half of the pitch.
Yeah, some of these grabs at the moment, shooting downwind. The wind condition again has changed. It's now back to sort of more right to left affair, whereas probably about 25 minutes ago this would have been an upwind possession for the Italians. Amati, high release. That one's well trapped by Crossi. Roofs it all the way across, and that's again really Brilliant defense from back, coming out of position. And we're going back to what we had at the beginning. Sakura Shinya generating turnovers for the D-line.
Japan wisely taking their time on this next possession, getting their stack ready.
Well, hopefully they can just be a tiny bit more thoughtful. That last possession was really lovely with the breaks, but didn't quite have enough distance. There's tight match coverage downfield, but that's going to be enough. Grossi getting up in the mixer. Has isolation for Ballista. They don't have to rush it. They have the lead, and time will expire soon. Just about 5 minutes left to go here in this women's power pool game. And what a grinder it has been. Grossi again trying to direct traffic, inspire her teammates to exactly what she wants. Sits still on that sideline, now comes in. That's going to be too far though. The Japanese zone really adding to the tally for this Italian side, and in so much space, but the throw, can it get there? Just not enough to make that full stretch layout bid. A Guitar Hero slide for Rona Wade instead though.
Very close. Got a lot closer than I thought that she might actually.
Well, again, throwing directly into the wind with these backhands is very tricky, and it's going to be a timeout call by Sara Farid. She's going to have a little chat with her coaches and decide what to do next as this point goes on. And we'll take a brief break in the booth here as well, but at the moment the second half really is a testament to these two teams' quality. Italy 8, Japan 6.
For the first time in 8 years, the WFDF World Ultimate Championships are here. The best athletes from 23 countries across the globe are headed to Australia to represent their nations in a competition for pride, prestige, and gold. Ultiworld is bringing you exclusive coverage of Worlds from the Gold Coast. See who is truly the best in the world. It all starts August 31st.
Italy versus Japan here in the women's powerball stages at the World Junior Ultimate Championships 2024. A cloudy, windy, blustery Birmingham day giving us plenty of zone for our money. And the Japanese women trying to get themselves back into this game after putting themselves in front. The biggest lead they had was 4-2 in the early stages. But now the Italian women coming out in the late stage. Grossi throwing all the way through to Amati. Just slicing open the cup. So the Japanese zone changing up a little bit. We're going back to that 1-3-3. This time, again, it does start to slow down the Italians. They get through though that front set. And it's Ballista standing with that tall frame, but they have to take the negative yards. Grossi surveying, dishing back to Villa. Fired. And that's body language for you. 14 turnovers in to only the second point of the first half. Sorry, second half even. Certainly not the first half. That one's going to go too far for Lucrezia Grossi. Perhaps some tiredness now sinking in for this Italian O-line.
The fatigue can be almost the biggest killer when it comes to offense. You're not able to think as clearly, you're not able to move your body as quickly as you'd like to, particularly on pivoting and throwing.
Well, I tell you what, the fakes that came out there from Ikagaki actually ended up sending... Woohoo! A little bit of pinball there. It ended up sending Briolini to the floor. The commitment was there. Oh, that just a little bit too much to be handled by Saori Takano.
Takano not really anticipating that throw to come to her. Or at least not at that angle.
Well, this is now becoming a situation where the break for Japan upwind would be a huge amount of value, because time is just about to expire here on our showcase field. So once time cap is applied, you finish the current point, add 1 to the highest tally, and that becomes your new target. So this one, a game to 9 or 10, depending on who will finish out this next marathon point. This has now had 16 total turnovers, which is a feature of Junior Ultimate, in the wind especially, as Grossi takes those extra steps upfield.
I would love...
Big reacher all the way across. Oh, that's such an unlucky miss. Those big arms for Lisa Rubino have been so consistent the rest of the game. High release, turns all the way around. Brilliant read from Kahara, swirling across, and you can really see the frustration. The Japanese women, for the first time in the game, I think, look a little bit rushed, because they know how much this point means.
Yeah, they definitely don't need to rush at this point. If anything, patience is a factor that they should really hold on to. They know that they work best and they think best when they're taking their time. Each stall count is 9 and a bit seconds.
I think the average is more like 8 when we clock it, really.
True, but you can utilize all of that time if you'd like to. But one thing I'd love to see from this Italian offense is a bit more throw and go. So pop pass across the back and sprint after in the same direction that you threw it in, to try and generate some more options, move the defense around.
Oh, Grossi firing it through to Fayed. Just really able to move the disc laterally, but now we're starting to see those pauses that Coach Pancotti didn't want to have. That one curling in bounds again. Oh, and the narrow miss from the defence. Getting a bit too hasty. Ballista now through to Briolini. Can the Italian handlers now thread it through this Japanese zone? Or will they be too hasty? That one fine enough. Now Grossi off the disc, directing her teammates. Oh, that's a lovely find. Nearly an immediate window available, but they might have to put another swing in. Handlers now very separated. Grossi just squeezing it through. Is she going to go for a creative break? No. Just a solid reset to Amati. Then Fayed. This is just really good containment from the Japanese women. You can see how much it's frustrating. That one lashed forward. Trying to go for an expansive give-go. Oh, and a high release backhand. That's going to sail all over the top. Boundly found the space where nobody else was. And that one is going to be a good consolation. But it took a long time for the Italian O-line there. Finally ended in the hands of Giulia Villa. And that shot there, that is exactly the theme of that point.
Yeah, frustrated elation, if anything. Just glad that that point is over. Finishing off the soft cap, this throw from Fayed is what saved Italy's offense. Perfectly positioned into Bellisa's hands. And Italy finally taking their opportunity into the end zone. Had 2 receivers.
Oh, I love that disc choice as well. The shot selection from Amati, that high release backhand. And of course, if you're enjoying this coverage coming out from the World Junior Ultimate Championships here in Birmingham, you can get full access by going to, of course, ultiworld.com/subscribe. You can get an event pass that will give you access just to the coverage from this junior championship, or you can consider going full send on subscriptions, getting yourself an access to a really, really deep archive of coverage from all kinds of tournaments. You can go for the normal subscription. I think they changed the way it's called, but I have to say, one of the true benefits of working for Multiworld as an organisation is getting a little bit of access as well. Written coverage, video analysis, it's all in there. So, Japan women to keep the game alive. It's now a case of denying the Italians. That one could be fantastic. No, just a bit too big down the near sideline for Zayazu.
That would have required a heroic bid and to stay within bounds close to that sideline. Italy opting for a zone for themselves again rather than sticking to the match defense that we'd seen previously.
Well, I like that kind of option. As you said, Gigi, there was the opportunity to potentially make a bid. It did come back in bounds, so that might be a bit too high up the pitch to start off with for Pancotti. Let's have another look at it. So there's Sayasu. Yeah, that comes back in quite considerably farther down.
Are you okay? Anything?
They think that the disc touch the ground in the field, but one of my team think that don't enter into the field.
So, did you have good perspective?
Me no.
You know,
but someone over there,
someone
yes.
over there. Did you have perspective? You think that it landed?
It was in the field.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was in the field.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. It was in the field. Yeah. From my perspective, it was in the field.
Okay.
Okay. So if you can't decide, then we split the distance where you think it went, and we take halfway.
Okay. There's a video or not?
I think your 45 seconds is now up.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Okay.
Just clarifying between themselves and accepting where the disc is coming back in.
Well, sometimes it's easy to forget you're on a showcase field and you can watch the VT back, but it just goes to show how heads in all of the players are on the sidelines. They're not looking at our replay monitor, they are looking at their teammates on the field and supporting them in every way they can. So, a full stretch for the Italian women. This one to end the game, if their D-line can, but it's going to be a redemption opportunity for Japan women. Fantastic defense and just about squeezing it past the bidding defender. Pancotti so close to getting the block there, but it's into the hands and the hearts of the Japanese.
That zone completely suffocated Italy. They had to take on some dicier reset options, but the positioning of Sawayama is what prevented that second chance, the disc flying over the top. Italy do have their heads down slightly. Even though they're 2 points up, they're only within one of taking this game, but it's been an absolute slog for both teams.
Well, this is now probably, for the Italians, your first true O-line that's going to come out in the game, now that we're at this stage. We're getting into power line territory. We just heard the Japanese calling their next 7 to try and keep this game alive. We're going to get a timeout call a little bit late for the Japanese, but I don't mind that, of course. You've got the 2 coaches there, clipboards at the ready. Already had the opportunity to hear from wonderful head coach Emily Mitsui and Tomoe Iwata, just readying their players to try and keep this one alive. Because those top 4 spots in the women's power pool stage, not easy to get to. This here in Pool C. Of course, they'll need a victory here, the Japanese women, to see themselves amongst the likes of the USA, France and Canada. But Sakura Shinya has been everywhere, all over the place for this Japanese women's side, Gigi.
Yeah, in terms of the numbers we're looking at, we see one of the 4 blocks that she has earned for Japan. As we mentioned earlier on, she tends to be within the deep of the zone, but also 2 goals to her name.
Yeah, it's not always the most glamorous position playing as a deep, but this Japanese zone is basically designed almost around Shinya. It really encourages the opponents to go over the top, and when you've got a deep like that, well, you're going to set them up. There have been some moments where those risks haven't always paid off, but that is the nature of the beast when you're playing zone defense. You don't have to get a block and a goal every time as a D-line. You don't necessarily even have to get a block every point, as long as you're applying consistent pressure. But pressure is the name of the game for this Italian women's side. They've switched largely to playing person defense as this game has continued. Even though we know the Italians love a zone, they have 3 different iterations. One of them can be played 2 flexy ways, but it's just now about trying to continue, I think, for the Japanese, clogging those lanes with their zone, making the Italians make hasty options or just grinding away at them, because they, in the mid-section and late section of this game, Gigi, we've seen far more turnovers from the Italian handlers on their resets, which we just did not see at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, and it's these timeouts where I really wish we could mic up the coaching circles just so we could hear what's being discussed. What tactics are they trying to trade? How are they trying to get their players mentally into the game? It's not been easy for either side whatsoever. They're having to go through this mental block of constant zone, lots of passes, lots of turns.
Well, can the Italians find that mental fortitude, Gigi, to get their way through this Italian zone cleanly? Pancotti, Grossi, Villa, Fayed, and down at the back, Rubino. And I think that might be a player we've not seen in a little while. Teresa Gelfi? Oh no, it's Ballista. Down that sideline, using the height. Grossi now doesn't like that initial position if Pancotti waits for her. Now Villa. Looking for that faster movement now, trying to keep that disc flowing like Coach Pancotti says. Now popping all the way into the pocket, Grossi. Has Ballista looking dangerous on that sideline. We know that Lucrezia Grossi has that feisty forehand to reach that side, but they'll swing over instead. Just trying to keep things simple. Fayed, low one. Well handled by Villa. Now Grossi again. The Italians now running a little bit out of time, and that one's just going to make it. A slicey break from Lucrezia Grossi at the end of it all, and that will indeed be a victory for the Italians here in the power pool stages. 10-7 your final score.
The first clean hold that we've seen in a while, Hannah, but it was well deserved. That was more like the confident and decisive Italian team that we have seen not only in earlier points but in other games. Again, I would love to hear what was discussed during the timeout, because something was said that made them switch on, be all on the same page, and allowed them to break through. You can see that there are some tears being shed, some hugs shared throughout this team.
I think maybe just for tiredness alone. I mean, we had those absolute marathon points. There were 3 of them in total, where we had 11 turnovers, 14 turnovers, 16 I mean, it was just absolutely toe-to-toe. And I mean, for the Japanese women, a little bit of sadness. I think there were a couple of calls that maybe weren't super impactful, that perhaps could have gone a different way in the end of it. But really, the break chances so even, the total turnovers so even. Just such a small margin, just that extra bit of finesse on the Italian defensive breaks.
And it's been a game of margins, as you've said. Everything being ridiculously close to each other, and those margins on pitch as well, finding those breakthrough opportunities in each other's zone.
Yeah, relatively low scoring game overall. Does also show testament to the fact of the windy conditions and the fact that the wind changed throughout that game. most of our other showcase field games have been very consistent. They've had wind going in one direction. Yes, those gusts still are coming, but I think probably also the recovered points, the Japanese really being pushed. They're only able to convert 30% when they got turned over, recovering from this taller Italian squad. Well, that will wrap us up for this game. But of course, there's plenty more to come. And hopefully the Japanese women, I mean, it's tight at the top. It's difficult in a power pool situation when only the top 4 teams go to semi-finals, but I'm sure they'll post some very respectable scorelines amongst the other top standings at the moment.
Yeah, currently some of the other results in Pool C. France have taken GB 15-2, and the USA have taken Canada 15-4.
Oh, so we're definitely going to want to get eyes on that Canada-Japan women's game, because that could well be a decider eventually. But of course we're going to get our usual player interview from the Italian side, and we've been delivered, for me, I think probably one of the players of the match. Gigi, we'll talk about the Japanese first, who's impressed you? We have talked about Sakura Shinya, of course, a lot.
I think something has got to be mentioned about Saori Takano as well. Some phenomenal grabs throughout this game, some game-saving catches. Not too many stats on the board, but still somebody to mention here in this game.
Absolutely. Well, we are joined on the sidelines. Congratulations, Lucrezia Grossi. You must be absolutely knackered. Very tiring game.
Yeah. I'm really, really tired. So sorry for my English, first of all, but I'm really tired. It was very difficult also for the wind, so we are all really tired, exhausted.
But in a good way.
Yeah. Fortunately, we managed to win this game, but also even if there was a lot of wind and Japanese team was really fast and precise with the throws, but we managed to win, so we are in the first 4 teams of the World Cup, so I'm happy.
Yeah, and you definitely should be happy. That was such a hard-fought game. How are you going to celebrate as a team for that win?
First of all, we're gonna eat something because I'm hungry, and then we're gonna play at I think 2:30, so we don't have so much time, but we are gonna play against France, so it's a tough game. But we're gonna eat something and then go to warm up. Just eat.
No, definitely getting some nutrition on is key. And yeah. We're going to be interested to see the result. Of course, that's the rematch from last year's final. So I'm sure you'll have some scores to settle. But our final thoughts. So obviously you played a lot on the O-line, but that very long point to finish the first half. How did you feel coming onto the pitch to help the D-line out?
I'm not really used to play in the D-line because I always played in the O-line, but I like to be in defense because I feel like I can help my team, and then I want to get the disc and then just go for a goal. So I also like to be in the D-line and just try to help my teammates.
Well, we're not surprised that you got asked to take that one on because it's been a really great game for you. Congratulations again, Lucrezia.
Thank you very much.
And good luck for the championship bracket.
Thank you very much.
Well, that game started off with the Japanese women flying high and executing to such a fantastic level. It seemed like nothing could be done to stop them from throwing those flick breaks wherever they wanted all over the field here. But the Japanese ended up on the other side of a bit of a washing because the Italian women really started to turn it on and just muscle their way to the disc. But some fantastic grabs and some really spirited performances all round, Gigi.
Yep, absolute elation from the Italian side, and both teams deserve to get some lunch on.
Indeed. Well, I think that might actually end Japan's hopes of going into the championship bracket and contending for medals, but the Italian women flying high and ascending through 10-7 over Japan.